Navy.com. Today is September 8th, 2016. This is the Black Star Update Report connected to Volume 36 of Taro's 2016 newsletter. Seismic indicators confirm that Earth is moving through the beginning stages of the second Earth change uptick period for the 2016 Earth orbit cycle relative to the Black Star moving through the Libra constellation relative to the Sun. That's how the report begins. Notice that we have a U here because we're in the uptick period. Last two cycles we were in outside orbit position. We got to that position in week 28 for this cycle. Too early. This is evidence that the Black Star is slowing down inbound orbital velocity. We believe that's because of the binary star magnetic repulsion that's going on. And so I've been wondering all spring and into the summer if we were going to get to outside orbit position early or late, with the likelihood that it was going to be early, and sure enough, I reported on that 2 weeks ago. And the evidence of increasing activity. Notice, look at the low values we had last year. Sub 20 value, way down for the 5 magnitude earthquakes. And we had 199 for 1 week off. It was just 1 week off there on the previous cycle, but it pretty much was following the right pattern for 2014. Now look at the 268 we have here. So 51 for the 5s, so near outside orbit position, red value. This is the highest value of the year, the single week value for the year, and it came amid 2 7s, which makes me shake my head and go, whoa, if we had so many 5s and so many 7s, how come we just had just 1 6? Really doesn't make sense. But that's what the data says, and so that's precisely what we are reporting here. And some people think this 268 here, look, it's way higher than it was in 2014. Why isn't that red value? And the reason is because when you look when you go back to 2015 and you get right around week 30, look at week 31 right here. 266 and then 327. You see how when we get to the uptick period, we got outside orbit position. Oh, this was a 192 value last year, and then we had the bounce right at outside orbit position. So maybe we were really at outside orbit position at week 29 for last year. So I was really looking for the sub 20 value in combination. So it's a toss-up. But since we had 0 of the 6s and we had 3 the week before, it was difficult for me to shift this back where the 192 was telling me we were at outside orbit position. So it's possible that we reached outside orbit position on the last cycle in week 29. Now that we've reached it in 28, that would show a progression backwards in time. This is still happening later in the year, but it's the orbit cycle. It's the week orbit. It's the week of the orbit cycle that comes. That's been coming traditionally 12 to 14 days later each year. So, for example, when you look up here at the top, week 30, you'll notice that week 30 began in 2014 in the last week of July. Now it's beginning in the last week of August, because this has been jumping. That's how each Earth orbit cycle, let me show you. Each Earth orbit cycle begins later each year. There's not 52 weeks, there's been 54 weeks. And the reason is because, let's just put the Black Star right here at Libra. Let's put it right here. Okay, that means we came into alignment in April, but the cycle started around here in February, when we get to that 90-degree angle mark. But if the Black Star is moving, it's been moving left in the orbit diagram 12 degrees per year for the last decade, average. That means the Black Star is farther left. That means Earth has to take longer in order to reach this outside orbit position, about almost 2 weeks longer. But if this is a 12-day cycle and I've been moving it 2 weeks, you can see where this 2 days is eventually going to cause us to lose a week. Okay, so there's maybe something that needs to be fixed in that area. We're going to continue tracking the data precisely the way that we have from the start, and then a larger pattern will emerge, and then we'll make those adjustments later in the timeline. It's not going to throw us off very, very much. We're predicting an Earth change uptick period running all the way to the last week of November into December, and the reason is because of where Earth is going to be behind the Sun. We're at outside orbit position over here. We've already reached that. You see this 90-degree angle, Libra? We reached that already around August the 19th. Last year it was August the 15th. It's a 4-day differential. We had a 3-day differential in our near side alignment. So then we come on behind the Sun relative to the Black Star, and these events have been happening a little bit late. They were 3 years ago, 3 weeks late. Then they're still late, but they're not 3 weeks. They're backing up to just about where they're supposed to be. So I'm counting on that. Our backside alignment last year was November 24th, right here. Right here, the 2 Peruvian quakes, 7.6s, took place right here. And you see how the alignment is actually with the left side of Libra. It's happening too late. But we're going to find out pretty soon. We could have our backside alignment very near the same time that we did last year, just like the near side alignment. So I'm predicting it for that it's going to be late, but it's only going to be about a week late. It's going to be in this last week of November. We're going to see lots and lots of activity. And when we pass behind the sun relative to the black star, there's a lot more going on here than just magnetics and gravity. There's a lot more going on here. And I mentioned that in the update report with information, emails being traded back and forth between myself and the geophysicist. Really, really smart guy. He's giving me some concepts, some things to grind, crunch, to try to understand that I have not previously included, that I was even aware of. So recognizing a pattern and being able to make a prediction doesn't mean you know what's causing the pattern. It just means you see the pattern. That's pretty much the way that this is run. Then we can speculate, we can theorize, we can gather evidence to support our claims. That's what the process has been all about. So we have a better understanding of most people what's going on. But when you bring somebody that has decades of experience, like the geophysicist has, then he's going to be giving us information, that things that were way outside the box, things that explain this. The geophysicist, he's on board with that we're dealing with a black star. This is our black star that we're talking about. Now we're trying to nail down the characteristics, the features, what's going on here. It's going to have to do with harmonics, it's going to have to do with planetary alignment, it's going to have to do with the way the black star is interacting with the planets, how it belches is the phrase that he used. These pressures that build up and then are released. Can't say that I've wrapped my head all the way around this stuff, not even close to that, but I can see where this new batch of information, quark stars, never even considered anything like a quark star, then eventually what I anticipate is that the plasma cosmology part, which I think that this is what we're migrating into, is going to explain more about why these near side alignment are coming early, why the backside alignments are coming late. It has to do somewhat with the planets, with Jupiter, with Saturn, and the black star's interaction with the sun, the earth, and the planets, the way that they're moving around. So it's not just just the earth that's interacting with the black star. It's not just the earth that's going to be responsible for the solar flaring activity from the converging magnetic portal connections, because there's other portal connections with other planets. Sometimes they're happening, sometimes they're not. So I've been making predictions and sometimes being like right on. There's going to be 3 flares that come off after the alignment. Did that 2 years in a row. All of a sudden, now we're not getting them. Why is that? On the backside alignment, we usually have flares leading up to, and then the largest flare after we have the alignment. Didn't happen on the last cycle. Why not? So the fact that these things do not happen as they're predicted, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It means that there's some characteristic, there's some feature, there's something that I haven't quite wrapped my head around, and that points me in the right direction. So the predictions that are coming true help us to understand more, and our failures help us to understand more too. The idea is to keep on, like with science, every field of science, then on the frontier is discovery and trial and error, building hypotheses, gathering evidence to support the claims, and then hopefully we do enough things right so that we can draw definitive conclusions that are reproducible, so we can build a superior predictive model. We can say what's going to happen in the future, and bam, it happens that way. So that's what I'm trying to do with the pattern recognition, but that's only going to go so far. And I realize that now that there's a smarter person in the room that is giving me input to help me to climb up a little bit, pull myself up by the bootstraps, and understand more and more about what's going on here. So red values are returning to the chart, just like the one we had here in week 28. Large magnitude earthquakes happening where they have not happened before. And especially this 51 for the 5 mags, just go up the chart. It's difficult to find any value in the 50s. You cannot even find one for 2016. You have to go all the way back. See this 56? This is the only 50 value in the chart. And it happened with the 8.3 chili quake, following with no 6 magnitude earthquakes for a 5-week period. This is a reset of the Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire tectonic dynamic that is influencing the entire globe. We're seeing how these pressures are shifting. Let's go to earthquake 3D for a second, just to use the globe part. Then what we're looking at is a shift. The chili quake obviously down here, and then no 6 magnitude earthquakes around the entire planet. We saw a similar event, Solomon Island, February 6, 2013. This area, tectonic plate breaks, creates extra space in this dynamic, the Pacific Ocean matrix here, the network. And then the indicator quakes, the ones that are at 268 right now, they went down all the way down to 107. Last time that has happened, that's the only time that has happened since this investigation started. That is another indicator that we had a Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire tectonic reset. We're getting these resets with these large quake events. We can see that it's a reset by the shift in the seismic pattern. That's when you get these red values that show up. Also, those that have been watching last week, let me give you the weekly values. This new activity that came so early in the Earth change uptick period, this hasn't happened previously. We get this mid-Atlantic ridge activity later, after Earth core is already heated up. Then we see a line of earthquakes coming from this region here, from the Nepal region. We had the 7.8 Nepal quake. That was April the 25th, 2015. This line of quakes come through Gibraltar, and then we see this activity that's between the Jamaica quake swarm area and Gibraltar. So we're seeing that now, but it came too soon. This, again, is a sign that the pressure has been shifting from Indonesia over to the Americas and right on through. This is a global thing now, global. And that's why we're going to see new patterns, because what was limited to the Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire, these deep magma plumes moving around, is apparently taking place. And we're seeing these larger earthquakes. Remember the one right here on the equator? Seeing these larger earthquakes taking place in diverse places, pretty much like Jesus Christ explains, even though he's talking about the end of the age. So watch for this activity to continue to increase through the end of December, and we're going to watch and see how much of this pressure is moving across here and into the Pacific Ocean. And what I want to do is look at the depths. Now we only had one, come down here just a little bit, only one new volcanic eruption. Those following the research know this is extremely rare. Even in the low period we have 2 or 3 usually. This is, if we're going to have this low value, it's going to be an outside orbit position. When the magnetic, that's where the magnetic portal connection between the Earth and the black star reaches a maximum length before it starts shortening. But we've already seen the uptick in seismic activity. If it's connected to the heating of the core, you would expect this to show up right here, and it just doesn't. There's something strange that's going on here too. I'm expecting this to become a long list of new volcanic eruption events by the time that we get behind the sun relative to the black star, and lots more seismicity and more of a connection between the magma the magma plumes that are rising. Just because you have a big earthquake in Chile doesn't mean that the magma plume that started 600 kilometers inside Earth, inside the mantle, is going to rise there. So it can rise, it can come up and be moved and shifted. Remember that the Earth's core is liquid, and it transitions from rock down to metal, transition zone more like glass. In the middle, that's between 450, 600 kilometers. That's where you get that transition zone. We've been having these earthquakes in that transition zone, 450 to 600 kilometers, that causes these rising magma plumes of that glassy type magma that comes up. As it rises, it expands until it displaces the heavier magma above it because it's expanding. And then when it reaches the crust, not enough support for the crustal displacement after these earthquake events become more massive, and particularly once they strike here. Larger earthquakes taking place. Let's look at the magnitudes. Right here you see a 5.7. A couple of years ago, this is unheard of. Look what's going on in the central part of the United States. There's a 5 point something that's here, but look how tall the stack of flags is. Anybody that wants to say this is fracking, I think, is a disinformation guy. Fracking is taking place throughout the United States. And yet Oklahoma is where North American Craton foot formation, pressure shifting across, the pressures coming from west to east is creating this. And this big giant uptick came 2013. The 3+ magnitude earthquakes, see a lot of them in here? That giant uptick came after Solomon Island and the reset in the Pacific Ocean, where pressures were beginning to shift over to the Americas that we're seeing now later in the timeline. Larger earthquake events, so you can see them already. And I told you when the uptick period started that these lines here, these circles that created a large void down here and a large void here, we're getting closing in, and now you're seeing that happening already. What's happening is this Baja California quake swarm area that was focused right here 5 years ago has shifted north, shifted north, shifted north, and the magnitudes are getting bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually Cascadia pops. We have a linchpin quake event. It's going to be a 5.9, maybe a 6 magnitude earthquake. It's going to be moderate, but then it's going to cause this big type of activity to follow. Whenever you get those and they become deeper, remember the crust here is only 60 kilometers deep at the coast, 250 kilometers at the North American Craton. These plates are pushed up against it. They're sandwiched together here, pressed, but the cascade of the tectonic plates is moving them, is causing them to shift towards Solomon Island this way. That is creating this new, you can see it plain as day right here, just in the earthquakes, the recent earthquakes. Texas, this new line of earthquakes that's different from the Baja California area. This is different. This is because of the separation of these plates. North American Craton, very stable. See how stable it is up here? This is the foot formation that is not as stable. At the bottom, there's a little foot that comes out. That's trying to snap off right here. That's what's responsible for these earthquakes. right here, but you can see it here, the gradual shift. I mean, this is slow motion cascade that gathers momentum and intensity nearing the end of each earth change uptick period. This has already started at the beginning of it, and this cascade is eventually going to get more pronounced. It's going to gain more momentum, and that's going to cause this widening California quake swarm area to become a California, Canada, Mexico. This thing is going to continue getting wider and wider and wider, and the earthquake events are going to get deeper and deeper and deeper. 2 years ago, we were talking about 11 kilometers deep, 1 to 11 kilometers deep. Since then, we've seen down to 55 kilometers, and you're seeing these 20. Let's see what the deepest quake is over the last week here. You have 28 kilometers there, 23 kilometers, 22. The average depth of these earthquake events are getting deeper. They were maybe the average for 2012, 2013 was that maybe 10 kilometers, or even less than that, maybe 7 kilometers, because there was a lot in the 3 range, 4 kilometers deep, something like that. Now you're seeing many clusters of 20-kilometer deep. So what I've been telling you guys, get your own program just like this, Earthquake 3D, and watch the depths of these things. If you live out in West Coast United States, that's going to be what you need to keep an eye on. When this gets to 50, 60, 70 kilometers and goes into the hundreds, you better be ready to get the heck out of Dodge. There's no safe zone area west of the Rocky Mountain Ridge in the United States. There is not one. This area is going to pop. Whenever those earthquakes get deeper, those rising magma plumes come up, crustal displacement is going to be massive. These calderas are going to become pressurized and pop. And then the winds are going to carry them right over Canada. It's going to want to go this way, and it can even come straight across this way. That's why you want to be far enough south in your safe zone area. Remember, there's no safe zone area that is east of the Mississippi River Basin. 200 nuclear power plants over here. The central part on the North American Craton is the safest place to be. Southwest Arkansas is going to be the safest place to be as far as safe zone. Okay, let's get back over here. And yeah, only one new volcanic eruption. Let's talk a little bit about the magnetic pole migration. Those of you that watched the report from last week, I predicted a move very small for this week because you can see it right here. See the 30th of August to September the 6th last year. Look at the little bitty move. So based on that, we said, well, because we had a big move last week, same thing happened last year. These moves are larger, but the magnetic North Pole is making a bigger circle, so it has to cover more distance to be in the same position relative. It has to move more distance. So our move this year was about twice as much, but it's still, look at that, a third the move that it made last week. So that was a pretty good prediction. We're watching to see whenever this green line passes this negative 360 line right here. We want to make a comparison to last year to see if we have closer to a 3-day differential, a lag behind, or a 12-day. So whenever you look at the previous year, see this 9.6? Look at the 9.6 way up here. This was more like a 2-week delay, but last year, from 2014 to 2015, we had a 12-day differential between the near-side alignment events. 12 days is 12 degrees on a circle. Okay? This year we only had 3. So now I want to see if there's a correlation here. Are we going to have a 3-day differential or something closer to a 12-day? Or is it going to be something right in between? Really interested to know. And for those that have been following, remember that around here in the spring, the magnetic North Pole was running a month ahead of time. I didn't think we'd be even close over here. But because of the wide path, look at the gigantic path. It's almost the same as the move from 2013 to 2014. See the big old path? Then 2014 and 15 follow almost the same path. But now, big jump down here. And we want to know the day that we get a crossing, that this pole position crosses last year's position. That last year was around October the 18th, something like that. We want to see what the date is. Are we going to continue going outside and coming back over here, kind of similar to last year, or is it going to be way earlier? That's going to give us some idea of the bulge we're going to see back here on this side. Because you can tell by looking at this, the way these lines are wanting to overlap over here and get wider over here, that directionality is moving this way. Siberia is over on this side. Okay. So this part right here, I'm watching my time because this could take all day to try to explain. I've been scratching my head wondering what's going on here, and I need your help to help me to understand. Going through the 9/11 investigation for 5 years, and then I woke up to the fact that there were many lettered agency operatives that were working right around me. They were feeding me good information in some parts and disinformation. The perfect lie has a lot of truth, and then the disinformation part that throws you off track. So after that, doing that investigation, so I'm a little keen, you can say I'm a little gun shy even, about information that's coming from other people, especially when it's well supported, well funded, well, it's growing, it's gigantic, and then something like this here happens. So maybe you can help me with this. And this is not typical of my behavior, but there is something that's going on here. So 2 weeks ago on Wednesday, this WSO interview, on short notice, Steve Olson wrote me and asked that we can do something. I said, okay, let's do it. And we had fun with it. I thought it was great. And he was nice. Wayne was nice. Everybody's nice as they can be. And Steve even said he wanted me to come on, do 5-minute updates or whatever on his WSO. It looked like that we had a building relationship. And many of you viewers right now came from WSO, came from Steve. And so I've tried to be very nice, giving accolades all the time. It's been very, very good for Project Black Star. Then, okay, Chris Potter makes his video. That was on the 26th. My newsletter came out and I had the document sent to me by Steve. That was the feedback document, which had one word from Steve. It had the word fun. Right? The rest of it was all Chris Potter. In his video, Chris Potter reads the document. He's reading my words, which he characterized, and then his, well, it can't be this way. It's a rebuttal, is what it is, which requires me to give my defending arguments. I present the hypothesis, the theory, with the claims, the evidence, the conclusions, and then here comes his physicist giving a rebuttal, is what it is. You can call it feedback, call it whatever you want. But whenever you're presenting opposing views, that's what debate is. I've got this view, he's got this view. Everybody that's in the audience gets to decide. So the documentation is all down here. It's all down here. The personal information, email addresses, things like that is all removed, but this is me, this is Steve, hi Steve, and this is an exchange back and forth of emails. And then I asked advice from the geophysicist. His information is right here. And what seems to have happened, because I'm not really sure, kind of like in a car wreck, you know, what happened? All of a sudden, after I had posted the last week's newsletter, I promised Steve that I would send him a copy, and I did. Well, then he reads it and he writes back, he goes, wait a minute, dude. He gives me a dude email. Dude, you weren't supposed to make this public. I'm scratching my head. At first, I didn't realize the document he sent me that I answered was the same exact words that were presented by his physicist. That's Chris Potter. I didn't realize but then later when I was making the emails, I went back and listened to his video to realize that he was reciting from the document word for word. So whenever you go online and you make a video and upload it, then you give up any right to say, well, you can't publish it. You've already published it yourself. And it was none of Steve's content. It was the physicist content. So I even wrote Steve, the email and the timestamp is right here. And I wrote him and I said, I am going to write my feedback. I said, I'm sorry. I'm so busy with all these people you sent me. But I will write my defending argument paper as soon as I can, and I will send you a copy, which I did. It was only after that that he says that I wasn't supposed to do that. So then I write Steve back and I go, Steve, wait a minute here. I've just given him the evidence like I'm sharing with you, and which I expect. Here's his dude letter. Dude. And so I'm a little bit confused here. Supposedly, and this is just beyond me. And there's some name calling here that I'm being there's just some bad stuff that's going on here. So then I wrote him back, and I've a couple of times, and I go, wait a minute, I don't really know what you're talking about here, because everything was public. I didn't violate any trust or anything like that. Our presentation was public. Chris's was public. My rebuttal is public. Everybody sees everything. I'm not hiding anything from anybody, except for the geophysicist wants to be anonymous. Obviously, that's protected. And Sandy doesn't want this or that, or Bonnie doesn't want, you know, people write me and they want to share some stuff, and some stuff that they, and if there's, I have a great track record on that. This newsletter has been around for a long time. And violation of that kind of trust is just not part of this investigation. We want to collaborate. We want to work with people. We want to protect. Whenever they insist on one thing or another, they ask, then that's the way that it is. But this is what he says right here. Terrell, what I'm saying is I didn't give you permission to publish this. This is a personal exchange, not for public consumption. But it was made public. It says, I have been nothing but friendly and honest and open, welcoming and hospitable, which he has. Wayne has. Everybody has. That does not mean you can take a personal letter of mine. It was not a personal letter. It was Chris's stuff. It says, and this is the part that really gets me. Now, this means either gravely lack of social skills of etiquette or a dangerous person that I should not should have had my guard up for. I'm like, holy cow, what? So when I try to reconcile, which that's what a brother in Christ is supposed to do. If I've wronged you, okay, what are you talking about? It says publish this. What is this? Maybe I have a misunderstanding of what this is. You know, like Clinton and the definition of what is and stuff like that. That's possible. But when I write for clarification, then you're supposed to say this or that, not just shut up. So there's something strange going on here. And I put the information here because I want closure on this. This has been occupying and it's been troubling for me. And you know how it is. It festers, it consumes your energy and things like that. So I wrote to the geophysicist. Here's his reply. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of geophysicist replies here. I appreciate his help very, very much. And here's information on, I'm not going to stop commenting on Steve Olson's videos if my subscribers, Sandy, send this in and says, hey, look, he showed a video of a solar eclipse. And so, I mean, it's very easy to tell what he's looking at. First of all, he's using lens flares as Nibiru again. He doesn't want to stop doing that. That's his bling bling. It's showmanship. It's entertainment. It's bringing in the numbers. And I'm not an entertainer. So that's going to be a difference in our different investigations, if you want to call what he's doing an investigation. Okay, but what you're looking at with this is a from the perspective of the satellite is a double eclipse. It's not a double eclipse. It's the moon. You go to, and I showed him images of this happening before. It happens a lot. And the moon comes around. It's a brand new moon. Whenever anything like that happens, you go check the moon chart. Go check the phases. See if it's a new moon on the same day as your anomaly. And it is in this case. And it's going to be. It's going to continue to be. This has happened before. I've seen it before. But somebody with my experience and somebody with resources like Don, our astronomer, our geophysicist, the people that are helping me in my research, then they're going to bring science. And it's going to dispel the lens flare stuff. It's going to make a mockery out of much of what's going on over there. But the thing is, the people, the sheeple, want to be led by somebody that's using lens flare stuff to sensationalize everything because it's entertainment. That's what they want. But if that's what they want, they got it perfect over there at WSO. And maybe that's why I'm not going to fit in over there, because either a handler told him that having me there, I know Dr. David Morrison doesn't want to have anything to do with anything that I'm doing. Marshall Masters, who I used to work with, doesn't want to have anything to do, blah, blah, blah. And Steve speaks about Marshall Masters regularly. And they're both lens flares chasers. So there's something that's going on there, and tons of information. And here's the geophysicist report. I mean, here's this is Chris Potter's video, and here's the geophysicist talking about the Lamb shift, and which may have something to do with something. As sophisticated people, sometimes they're right on something and they send you in the right direction. Sometimes they have so much information, so much data to grab from, then they reach and they grab, and it's really something simple, something that this double eclipse thing is going to happen right on the new moon, and it's the satellite position that caused it. So still, I got permission, I do that regularly, and everything that's presented here has been approved. And this quark star part, lots and lots of information here. The stability and strange quark matter, getting into some different kinds of energy, and maybe this is part of the answer that I need. I need more time to be able to go through that. I apologize to those waiting for the Mystery Explained to be updated. You can see that I've been busy, and extremely busy, not just with this, but with personal stuff. And but maybe you guys can, I call this the Steve Olson, Chris Potter tarot debacle. Maybe you guys can help me to understand why the Project Black Star investigation and myself got kicked under the bus by Steve Olson whenever I thought we had a lot in common. We're both tracking something coming from space. On this side of the equation, we have lots of science, and a little bit of controversy makes good shows. A little bit of controversy is great for radio. It's great for TV. A little bit of controversy. Of course, flame throwing is not good. But it looks like there was a really great opportunity for Steve to boost his the science part of his investigation and eliminate a lot of the lens flare stuff and things like that. And it was a chance for people who have never seen Project Black Star to be exposed. That seemed like a win-win. It seemed like a perfect deal to me. And I'm still willing to go and help those guys out. I'm going to continue commenting on their videos until they ban me, which I expect is going to happen. But anyway, I know I'm way off track here. I want to keep this under 40 minutes if possible. Project supporters for this week include Mike, John, William, Elaine, Darcy, Mark, Robin, Joni, Joseph, Clayton, and Chuck, all hitting the subscribe button at Terlo3.com to receive full subscriber benefits for the life of their subscriptions. Then Clifford, Patrick, Pamela, and NC Army renewed their subscriptions from previous year with John and Randy making donations to the research. And there's a note here for NC Army. Your mailbox is full. Every time somebody subscribes or renews, they get a notification email from me with their, always has their subscription status right there on it. I cannot send NC Army an update on their status because, and with the old links, making sure you're staying connected, some people, things happen. Can't send it if your mailbox is full. So there's your note there, NC Army, to do that. Then, see, I'm approaching my time. Here's that information that I just talked about. And there's a lot of stuff in this newsletter. And I'm expecting this is going to continue. Here's more information shared from the geophysicist. He's noticing enthusiasm in the newsletter, and he just wrote me just not too long ago, says he can't wait for this one to come out. Geophysicist adds more information, and there's a video of interest for those that are trying to wrap their heads around what's going on with Project Black Star. The more gifted people, you're going to get something out of this. I'm hoping that some of you get more out of it than I am, so that you can help me with it. Your comments, your questions, especially subscribers, newsletter subscribers, write me. You see parallel research from somebody else, you see patterns, there's all of us working together can see much broader a spectrum than I can see by myself. This helps us. It's very, very good. I have no problem being the second smartest guy in the room either. You show me, and then you get kudos for it because it helps everybody that's involved. The banner that we are all following is in search of the truth. The truth, the truth, the truth. That's what we want, no matter what it takes. That's what we want. We invest the time, the effort, and we dig and we dig, and that's what we want. And eventually all the anomalies are explained. That's the idea. So lots of information here. Like I said, he writes about the event horizon, and I was wrong. I'll just say I was wrong. I was wrong. I was giving more attributes of the black star. I was giving more black hole attributes to the black star than it deserved, is what happened. And the physicist pointed that out, and the geophysicist pointed that out, and I was wrong. So, enough on that. Then the geophysicist, this is a geophysicist against a physicist, and pretty interesting. And I would love to see them in a debate because I think geophysicist is going to be hands down. I mean, making the better presentation, making the better arguments, and that's what he's seeking to do right now. Going through his mind, going through the research from previous years, looking at all the data, trying to build the case for the black star. Very similar to Don, the astronomer. He knows that it's something out there, something between a black dwarf, brown dwarf, quarks. We don't know exactly what it is, but we do know, we're understanding more about how it behaves. And we know the location. We're able to make the predictions about the Earth change uptick periods, low periods, solar flare activity, what's going on with stuff like that, because of the research that we've already done in the baseline data. And explaining the explaining the geophysicists explaining black star related science. What I did was write, and I was receiving a lot of information from geophysicists, not able to use it the way that I wanted. So when you give too much information, especially if it seems unrelated without making the connections, it looks like a giant black hole to me, a giant rabbit hole. People run down it, never return. Rabbit holes everywhere, go nowhere. That's what Dylan Avery does. That's what Richard Gage does for the 9/11 inside job people. They work for the State Department. That's their job. That's what they do. I don't want to do that. I want to break things down so the regular guy can understand it, and step by step process. So instead of trying to lift the whole world at once, kind of thing. So I wrote and asked, and so then he came back with, he's got these different constants and theories of electromagnetism and things like that to help us. He was mentioning the God helmet. The God helmet part is down in the science and technology section. It's not up here in that part. So he's going to talk about fluxes either. He's going to talk about fluxes, and we see that in the radio and X-ray fluxes with the sun, and dynamos being created, feedback, interferences, celestial harmonics. Using a lot of big words here to try to explain black star characteristics and behavior. That's what the transition that we're seeing here more and more in this stuff. On the one side, I want to keep things simple. On the other side, I need enough science in order to understand what's going on. So you're catching me in the middle of where I'm like in midair. I've been holding on to my old method, and I'm letting go so I can reach over and grab onto the new method. And that's a transition. And sometimes that's very, very difficult. Give me time and be patient. And I'm going to make eventually going to wrap my head around this stuff and make better presentations, definitely. So last week, I was telling the geophysicist, what you're saying, the harmonics part, the interaction of the planets and stuff, that sounds a lot like Frank Hoggerbeats. And he was making lots of contributions early on, and then he kind of stopped. I was poo-pooing his planetary alignment information because we've had planetary alignments from the beginning, and we've had a sudden uptick in the seismicity. Planetary alignments aren't going to explain it, but there was more to what Frank was saying that was escaping, that idea I wasn't catching. It has to do with how the black star is interacting with the planets, changing this frequency harmonic thingy that's going on that I haven't completely wrapped myself around. Something in here is going to help me understand why some of the alignment events are happening early and why some of them are happening late, because it's not just gravity. There's something more that's going on here. And so lots of information. Frank sent some helpful links, gravity versus geomagnetic waves, lots of information here again. Very appreciative of geophysicist and Frank. I think they're kind of similar, they're on the same page here. And eventually it's going to make a lot of sense. Here's more on this double eclipse thing. That is it's really the moon. I mean, it's just very, very simple. That's what it is. Then Sandy's, this was at the top of the newsletter, and so much of this other stuff happened that, but she's writing about how happy she is about having the geophysicist has the ability. This is our exchange back and forth. I mentioned Frank. This is the kind of article that has lots of information as we're sharing it back and forth, and you guys are privy. You guys can look in the window, kind of, and I can see that the something strange is happening to stratosphere. You're going to want to my reply, and I'm giving you links, places to go to better understand what's going on with that. That part I understand. And WSO, Sean. Then anyway, lots and lots of information here. Nothing in the health and wellness this week, and only one survival topic. That's the way it goes. And I apologize. There's a lot of political stuff. A lot of people have their head in the politics, and they're sending me a lot of stuff, and a lot of that. I put some of it in the newsletter, but this thing is 118 pages. And there's only so much space. In the past, there was only so much support and people sending stuff in that everything could make it in, but it's just not that way anymore. And remember, this is a science-based investigation. Project Black Star, 2 parts. We help them wake up, and then we help them see the need to prepare. That's the bottom line. That's what it boils down to. The science, and then how to survive. That's what my primary focus is, and that's what I'm trying to make it be, keeping everybody happy at the same time. So this is as long as this can go, because it has to have time to upload before I do the radio show. So thank you guys again. Support the research at terralo3.com. Appreciate your support very, very much, and I'll see you guys on the next Black Star Update Report. Hello YouTube and newsletter subscribers, this is Terrell from terralo3.com. Today is September 8th, 2016. This is the Black Star Update Report connected to Volume 36 of Terrell's 2016 newsletter. Seismic indicators confirm that Earth is moving through the beginning stages of the second Earth change uptick period for the 2016 Earth orbit cycle relative to the Black Star moving through the Libra constellation relative to the Sun. That's how the report begins. Notice that we have a U here because we're in the uptick period. Last 2 cycles we were in outside orbit position. We got to that position in week 28 for this cycle. Too early. This is evidence that the Black Star is slowing down inbound orbital velocity. We believe that's because of the binary star magnetic repulsion that's going on. And so I've been wondering all spring and into the summer if we were going to get to outside orbit position early or late, with the likelihood that it was going to be early, and sure enough, I reported on that 2 weeks ago. And the evidence of increasing activity, notice, look at the low values we had last year. Sub 20 value, way down for the 5 magnitude earthquakes. And we had 199 for 1 week off. It was just 1 week off there on the previous cycle, but it pretty much was following the right pattern for 2014. Now look at the 268 we have here. So 51 for the 5s, so near outside orbit position, red value. This is the highest value of the year, the single week value for the year, and it came amid 2 7s, which makes me shake my head and go, whoa, if we had so many 5s and so many 7s, how come we just had just 1 6? It really doesn't make sense. But that's what the data says, and so that's precisely what we are reporting here. And some people think this 268 here, look, it's way higher than it was in 2014. Why isn't that red value? And the reason is because when you look when you go back to 2015 and you get right around week 30, look at week 31 right here. 266 and then 327. You see how when we get to the uptick period, we got outside orbit position. Oh, this was a 192 value last year, and then we had the bounce right at outside orbit position. So maybe we were really at outside orbit position at week 29 for last year. So I was really looking for the sub 20 value in combination. So it's a toss-up. But since we had 0 of the 6s, and we had 3 the week before, it was difficult for me to shift this back where the 192 was telling me we were at outside orbit position. So it's possible that we reached outside orbit position on the last cycle in week 29. Now that we've reached it in 28, that would show a progression backwards in time. This is still happening later in the year, but it's the orbit cycle. It's the week orbit. It's the week of the orbit cycle that comes. That's been coming traditionally 12 to 14 days later each year. So, for example, when you look up here at the top, week 30, you'll notice that week 30 began in 2014 in the last week of July. Now it's beginning in the last week of August, because this has been jumping. That's how each Earth orbit cycle, let me show you. Each Earth orbit cycle begins later each year. There's not 52 weeks, there's been 54 weeks. And the reason is because, let's just put the black star right here at Libra. Let's put it right here. Okay, that means we came into alignment in April, but the cycle started around here in February when we get to that 90-degree angle mark. But if the black star is moving, it's been moving left in the orbit diagram 12 degrees per year for the last decade average. That means the black star is farther left. That means Earth has to take longer in order to reach this outside orbit position, about almost 2 weeks longer. But if this is a 12-day cycle and I've been moving in 2 weeks, you can see where this 2 days is eventually going to cause us to lose a week. Okay, so there's maybe something that needs to be fixed in that area. We're going to continue tracking the data precisely the way that we have from the start, and then a larger pattern will emerge, and then we'll make those adjustments later in the timeline. It's not going to throw us off very, very much. We're predicting an Earth change uptick period running all the way to the last week of November into December. And the reason is because of where Earth is going to be behind the sun. We're at outside orbit position over here. We've already reached that. You see this 90-degree angle, Libra? We reached that already around August the 19th. Last year it was August the 15th. It's a 4-day differential. We had a 3-day differential in our near side alignment. So then we come on behind the sun relative to the black star, and these events have been happening a little bit late. They were 3 years ago, 3 weeks late. Then they're still late, but they're not 3 weeks. They're backing up to just about where they're supposed to be. So I'm counting on that. Our backside alignment last year was November 24th, right here. Right here, the 2 Peruvian quakes, 7.6s, took place right here. And you see how the alignment is actually with the left side of Libra. It's happening too late. But we're going to find out pretty soon. We could have our backside alignment very near the same time that we did last year, just like the near side alignment. So I'm predicting it that it's going to be late, but it's only going to be about a week late. It's going to be in this last week of November. We're going to see lots and lots of activity. And when we pass behind the sun relative to the black star, there's a lot more going on here than just magnetics and gravity. There's a lot more going on here. And I mentioned that in the update report with information, emails being traded back and forth between myself and the geophysicist. Really, really smart guy. He's giving me some concepts, some things to grind, crunch, to try to understand that I have not previously included